The very first thing the man did after being reborn was to personally send his own father to prison. Everyone called him a monster, someone heartless enough to strike down his own father, but only he knew this so-called father was nothing more than a demon wearing human skin. In his previous life, when a man awakened the most useless E-rank class, his father, feeling humiliated, beat him within an inch of his life. His mother as always stepped in to shield him, but back then he was far too weak and could only watch helplessly as his father beat his mother to death. Now, with a second chance at life, he swore he would never let that tragedy happen again. This was a world where awakeners and demons coexisted. In his previous life, he had been one of the strongest awakeners, leading the most powerful force in human history, the Divine Legion. They fought to clear demon lairs for the rulers revered as gods. As long as they could wipe out this lair and slay the demon king who wielded 5 elemental powers, they would achieve the legendary feat of conquering 100 high-tier demon lairs. He thought that once the mission was done, he could finally take a long break and spend a blissful night with the woman he loved most. But in that moment of relief, a teammate named Jibota gathered power in secret and launched a deadly sneak attack, instantly killing the youngest mage in their party. By the time they realized what was happening, they were already trapped within the formation Jibota had prepared in advance. No matter how much he roared in fury, Jibota treated him like nothing more than a barking dog. Right before his eyes, Jibota slowly tortured his girlfriend and Lucian, forcing him to watch helplessly as they were slaughtered. It wasn't until the moment before his death that he finally understood. From the very start, the so-called gods had treated them as disposable pawns. Once they grew strong enough to threaten its existence, they would be erased without hesitation. Jibota, that bastard, had been a mole planted by the gods 10 years ago. With a cold smirk, Jibota said, "To earn your trust, I've been acting alongside you for years. Even I find it disgusting. But once I kill you all, I can finally take a long vacation." Before the words even faded, Jibota's demon-piercing death beam blasted him into nothingness. As his consciousness began to fade, the demon king they had slain suddenly appeared before him and offered him a deal to save his family and comrades, and more importantly, to take revenge on that bastard Jibota. He accepted without hesitation. The demon king let out a low roar and unleashed chrono reversal. In an instant, his consciousness was dragged back to the distant past. When he opened his eyes again, he found himself sitting in a middle school classroom. A teacher's voice was calling his name. He froze. He had really come back, and it was right before his awakening. Seeing him sit there in a daze, the teacher snapped sharply. "Bye. Sleeping in class is bad enough, but you're getting your class changed this afternoon and you're still dozing off. Go stand at the back," she barked before resuming the lesson. In this world, there were 5 elemental powers: lightning, flora, cloud, core, and star, but each person could only host one. Their teacher, Miss Huang, possessed the rarest of them all, the cloud element. Elemental powers were divided into 3 main types: combat, utility, and special. From these categories came countless unique professions. At school, the strongest guild was an elite team made up of a mage, a warrior, a bard, and an assassin. So far, nearly 100 professions have been discovered. Their ranks were classified into 4 tiers: green, blue, red, and gold, and each person had only one chance in their lifetime to awaken. This afternoon's class assignment would determine their place in the world for the rest of their lives. After saying this, the teacher dismissed the class by he decided to step outside for some fresh air and ended up stumbling upon a spectacled boy being bullied. The bully was none other than that scumbag Yellow Hair. Ever since he'd awakened early with a rare red tier class, he'd been picking on the weak at school, always mocking others as trash who needed outside help to awaken. Now, he stomped hard on the bespectacled boy's hand, snarling, "Think just because you're about to awaken, you can stand in my way. Red tier rare class awakeners like me will always stand above trash like you got it." Unable to bear the pressure any longer, the boy pulled out a few 100 yuan to beg for mercy. Suddenly, Miss Huang stepped forward. "That's enough. Hong Chongqing. This is a school. Are you trying to rob someone?" Yellow Hair just gave a crooked smile. "He walked into us and hurt us. Isn't it fair he buys my brothers each a milk tea? And you trying to stick up for a student? If it weren't for your looks, I'd have had you thrown out of this school a long time ago." With that, Yellow Hair strutted off with his lackeys. He remembered how in his previous life, Miss Huang had helped him a lot after his awakening. Seeing her humiliated now, he couldn't swallow the anger. Before Yellow Hair got far, he stepped in to block his path. Yellow Hair didn't even glance at him, just shoved him aside muttering, "I'll be back later to watch you weaklings make fools of yourselves." Meanwhile, Miss Huang had helped the bespectacled boy to his feet. She was about to comfort him, but he quickly took all the blame, insisting the money was given willingly. Miss Huang sighed helplessly and let it slide. Soon it was their turn for awakening. In this world, there were two ways to awaken. One was natural awakening like Hong Xiangxing. This usually happened to those with exceptional physical fitness and talent, triggering in a moment of extreme emotional intensity. The other method was through the awakening chamber. It was the crowning achievement of countless scientists' efforts. Inside, a person's emotions and adrenaline would be pushed to the limit, triggering the awakening of latent potential. However, each person could only awaken once in their lifetime, and the outcome was entirely random. That's why awakening and class assignment were seen as the one chance to completely restart one's fate. Soon it was Bai Yi's turn. Miss Huang warned, "Focus this time. Don't drift off like you do in class. You need to give it your all. Understand?" He gave a short reply before stepping into the chamber. In his previous life, he had awakened as an E-rank core-type warrior, a green-tier mediocre class, so he had been bullied constantly. It wasn't until much later, when he advanced to S-rank, that he awakened one of the rarest classes and finally redeemed himself. He couldn't help but wonder what class would he awaken to this time. But the moment he stepped into the chamber, the system flashed an error. Detection failed. Before he could make sense of it, another prompt appeared, 5 elemental types detected. At the same time, he felt a surge of scorching energy coursing through his body. Even more shocking, a voice in his head announced the activation of the Infinite Awakening system. A glowing panel appeared before his eyes. Host possesses all 5 elemental affinities. You may choose any class from any element as your initial profession. From then on, whenever one element's energy reached the required threshold, he could gain a new random class for that element or upgrade an existing one. His eyes widened in disbelief. Everyone else could only awaken to one elemental class in their lifetime, but he could not only choose his element and class at will, he could also keep gaining new ones. Green tier, blue tier, red tier, gold tier, he could obtain them all. Even a fabled special tier classes were now within his reach. The system replied, "Correct. Only your initial class can be chosen freely. All subsequent classes will be obtained randomly." It was then he realized this was all the doing of the Demon King inside him. The power of infinite awakening. Warning. Once the initial class is chosen, all elemental gauges will be reset. Choose carefully. Outside, people were already getting impatient. What's taking him so long in there? Just then, Bai Yi stepped out of the chamber. Miss Huang was the first to greet him, asking eagerly what class he had awakened. He put on a regretful expression. "I'm sorry, teacher. I've let you down. I awakened as a core-type warrior, the lowest green tier quality." But Miss Huang wasn't disappointed. Instead, she encouraged him. "Even a green tier class has produced extraordinary people. As long as you don't give up, this world will never give up on you." He was about to say something more, but Miss Huang gently patted his shoulder. "I know you're feeling down. Go get some rest. Awakening takes a lot out of you." Unfortunately, this scene was spotted by Yellow Hair as he walked by. He immediately mocked her in a sing-song tone, imitating her words. "As long as he tries hard, the world won't abandon you. Funny, I thought you were more capable than that. Teacher, since would you spout useless motivational garbage?" Raising his voice, he suddenly called out, "Teacher, you know that's not how the real world works. The truth is green tier means you're doomed to be trash for life. This world has always been that way. The gods only choose the strong. Weaklings are born to be trampled." The moment he mentioned gods, Bai Yi's anger flared. Miss Huang quickly tried to shut him down, but Yellow Hair just kept running his mouth. "Teacher, you know it as well as I do. Green tier means you'll spend the rest of your life stuck in the back row. That's how the world works. No strength, no background, no future. People like that are always thrown away. The strong get better resources and grow even stronger. Green tier weaklings are doomed from the moment they awaken, fated to be the bottom feeders of awakeners. All that crap about hard work changing your life or green tier geniuses. Do you even believe it yourself?" He grew more and more worked up. "It's just like being born into the wrong family. Your fate's decided from the start. Our Awakener Academy is just a miniature version of reality. Isn't that right, teacher? You're a blue tier yourself, only fit to be a useless school teacher scraping by." And green tier trash should just go home early instead of wasting government resources before he could finish. Bayu snatched the drink from his hand and splashed it straight into his face. Yellow hair froze for a split second, then his expression twisted with rage. Do you have any idea what the hell you're doing? Bayu replied coolly, I just don't like hearing you talk. Yellow hair blinked then burst into manic laughter. You son of a, I've been way too nice to you. Without warning, he swung a punch at Bai. Miss Huang tried to step in, but Yellow Hair's attack was already inches away. Weaklings like you should just die. The next moment, a long sword shimmered into Bai Yi's hand, effortlessly blocking the strike. Yellow Hair's eyes went wide, then a surge of force rebounded into him, hurling him over 2 meters through the air before he crashed to the ground, spitting a mouthful of tomato juice. Yellow Hair had no idea what had just happened. The onlookers gasped. How did he do that? He actually sent Yellow Hair flying. Ai's voice was cold. Core-type warrior may be considered the lowest tier, but to me it's the strongest. Yellow Hair scoffed. He's got lucky and dodged. I'm a rare red tier class, completely different from trash like you. But Miss Huang saw the truth instantly. It was no mere luck. What he'd used was the warrior's top-tier footwork inside step. At the instant of taking the heaviest blow, it completely blocks the damage. Then, within an inhuman 0.09 seconds, reflects the force back at the attacker. My teacher trained for 10 years and still couldn't master that technique. So how could someone who just awakened today with no battle experience pull it off? Yellow Hair didn't care in the slightest. Gripping the dagger that came with his Galaxy Assassin class, he sneered, ready to die? Trash like you. I'll make you crawl in front of everyone. What he didn't know was that he had chosen this seemingly weakest class for a reason. In his previous life, Bai He had used it to defy fate and rise to the top. Locking eyes with Yellow Hair, he said slowly, deciding a person's future and their life or death from birth is a mistake you'll only realize years too late. As soon as the words left his mouth, the two stood face to face, tension crackling between them while the crowd buzzed with whispers. Fighting with awakened powers on school grounds is strictly forbidden, and look how many people are watching. Hong Xiangxing's father was a high-ranking official and his uncle owned the school. He, on the other hand, came from nothing. The bespectacled boy looked around anxiously. Teacher, what do we do? If Bai Yi takes this challenge and fights here, he could get expelled. Miss Huang could only sigh in frustration. Still, as a teacher, she stepped between Bai Yi and Yellow Hair, trying to mediate. You both just awakened today. Who knows? One day you might fight side by side. Let's end this here. Yellow Hair let out a mocking laugh. Are you kidding me? He challenged me in front of everyone, and you expect me to just walk away? Even if he gets on his knees and begs, it's too late. I'm gonna show him the unbridgeable gap between the chosen and the nobodies. Miss Huang sighed inwardly. She knew all too well that the gap between class tiers came down to attribute bonuses. A green tier class had a 100% bonus, no change at all. The same class in blue tier had a 150% bonus. Red tier a staggering 200% bonus. The moment a red tier awakened, all of its stats were already twice that of a green tier. That was a gap in power that could almost never be crossed. The bespectacled boy stomped his foot anxiously. It's over. In both strength and connections, FAIE is completely outmatched. Why pick a fight with someone stronger than you? Sure, scum like him is detestable, but to survive in this world, you gotta steer clear of trash. And when you can't avoid them, you swallow your pride. Bend when you must, stretch when you can. That's how you last. Head-on confrontation is the dumbest move. All you'll get is an even bigger humiliation. Meanwhile, Yellow Hair had cranked his stats to full, surging toward Bai Yi with lethal momentum. Miss Wang's heart clenched. Was Bai Yi really planning to block with inside step again? That technique burned through stamina like nothing else. Yellow Hair's attack power was too high, his speed too fast. There was no way Bai Yi could block at this time. Yellow Hair sneered, let's see you dodge this. Bite simply smiled, dodge. Why would I need to? Before the words had even faded, he activated burst speed, a skill that could boost movement speed by over 50% in a short burst. And when pushed to 100%, it triggered flash step. In the blink of an eye, he was already behind Yellow Hair. Yellow Hair was stunned. He couldn't track Bai Yi's movements at all. When did he get behind me? Before he could process it, a mouthful of tomato juice burst from his lips. In the next second, he collapsed to the ground. Bai Yi cast him a cold glance. Trash belongs in the trash can. The crowd erupted. Did you see what happened? No. It looked like Hong Chongsing just fell over by himself. What was that? Did he trip? The bespectacled boy snorted with laughter. Did he just fall on his own? Even Miss Huang looked bewildered. I couldn't catch it this time either, but the pink-haired girl standing behind her narrowed her eyes in thought. At the moment Hong Chongqing attacked, he triggered burst speed again, and not just the basic version but its advanced form, flash step. Still, how did he finish the fight so easily in that instant? A flicker of admiration flashed in the pink-haired girl's eyes, but he hadn't just mastered the highest level application of a warrior's basic skill. He could seamlessly adapt it in real combat, and in that instant he had even considered avoiding any public violation of school rules. The one analyzing this was none other than Bai Yi's class monitor, Qin. Around them, the crowd kept murmuring, "What's wrong with Hong Xiangxing today? The other guy barely even moved. What a joke." At the same time, a system prompt chimed in Bai Yi's mind. Experience gained 50 class XP. Just as he had expected, using class skills and battle earned class experience, and defeating an opponent of the same element granted elemental points. Only 50 points? Too little. I'll need to start clearing demon lairs as soon as possible. I chose core type warrior because once it advances, it gains a unique quality no other class can match, and incredibly powerful skills. This time, I'll level up and advance faster than I ever did before. With that thought, Bai Yi turned to leave, but the beaten yellow hair struggled to his feet, trying to block his way. Before Yellow Hair even finished speaking, he threw everything he had into a surprise attack on Bai Yi. Just as he thought he'd landed the blow, a sharp voice barked, "Enough." The newcomer was Hong Liang, the head of the Awakening Academy's junior division and Yellow Hair's uncle. "Haven't you embarrassed yourself enough already?" His gaze swept over the crowd of students. "You've all just awakened today. You must be exhausted. Stop standing around watching the show. It's the weekend. Go home early and tell your families about the class you awakened." Then his tone shifted abruptly as he fixed his eyes on Bei. "And you have any idea that combat on school grounds is strictly forbidden?" The moment he heard the words "go home," his heart skipped a beat. He didn't even register the man's barking. The shock of being reborn had been so great that it took him a moment to realize. If he was back 20 years ago, they were all still alive, and on this very awakening day, something else would happen. Damn it. How could I have forgotten? It was the most important day of my life. Ignoring the furious glare of the director, Bai Yi turned and bolted from the scene. The director, fuming with nowhere to vent, turned his anger on Miss Huang. "Keep your student in line. I'll pretend nothing happened today." Miss Huang, helpless, could only bow slightly. "I'm sorry. I failed to manage my student properly." Cut to the director's office. Yellow Hair was still sulking, grumbling. "Damn it, if it weren't for pure luck, there's no way I'd lose to that trash." The director roared, "Cut the crap. The moment you charged in, that kid pulled off an advanced skill, flash step, and more importantly, right at the instant you were about to make contact, he pinpointed the weakest spot on your entire body and shattered your guard in one blow." The director took a deep breath, his tone turning grave. That entire sequence was nothing but basic warrior skills. But even after 15 years of bloody combat on the battlefield, I couldn't execute them with that level of mastery. Your fight was like a pro gamer toying with a max-level noob using nothing but basic moves. That kid is nothing like you think he is. Meanwhile, he was sprinting home with everything he had. If there was anything besides revenge that he had to accomplish after being reborn, it was this, something he would stop at any cost even if it meant his life. Thankfully, he made in time. At that moment, that bastard father of his was still sitting there happily watching TV, and his mother was safe and unharmed. When his father saw Bai walk in, he casually said, "Back already? School ended early today." Bai didn't answer, his eyes going straight to the kitchen where his mother stood. Tears welled up instantly. "Mom, you're alive. Thank God." Bai's mother was deaf and mute. The moment she saw him come home, she happily signed to him. "I made your favorite spicy sour." With teary eyes, he said, "Mom, today I want to eat pickled fish." She signed back tomorrow. "I've already prepared spicy sour noodles for today." He pleaded, "Mom, I really want it today. Could you buy it for me?" She gave a helpless smile as if to say, "You're impossible," and started toward the door to get it for him. Just then, his father suddenly spoke up. "What's wrong with you, kid? You come home and don't even greet your dad. Isn't today your awakening day? Tell me the good news." As he spoke, he pulled a bottle of liquor from the fridge. "I even finished work early just to come home and celebrate with you." Bai lowered his head, his voice muffled. I missed it. I didn't awaken. The awakening ceremony took too long today. We didn't get the chance yet. His father frowned. Then why'd you come home so early? The lay son awakened a blue tier class. Looks like both father and son are useless trash. My son, by Lingxing's son, should at least be a red tier awakener. Back in my day, I had nothing and I still awakened red tier. I worked myself to the bone to provide for you, poured everything I have into you. Now tell me, what class did you awaken? As he spoke, a wave of pressure radiated from him. Bei said, I haven't awakened yet, before he could finish crash. A liquor bottle smashed against his head. His father glared at him with pure contempt. Well, isn't this something you're green tier? So you strut around school pretending to be diligent only to awaken some worthless green tier class? Are you trying to disgrace me? This man was a red tier awakener and his father. He was also a violent man who couldn't control his temper. It had been so long that, he had almost forgotten what happened on awakening day. In his previous life, when his father learned he had awakened as a green tier, he was furious and beat him savagely right there at home. His mother, as always, stepped in to shield him. But back then, he was too weak and too scared. He could only cower in the corner watching helplessly as his father struck her. The beating lasted a full hour before his father's rage subsided. That day, his mother's leg was broken and a heavy blow to her head left her mentally unstable. Not long after, she fell gravely ill and passed away. Now, having been reborn, he would risk everything to stop it from happening again. The core-type warrior might have a unique trait no other class possessed, but it still needed time to develop. Right now, he was still just the weakest E-rank awakener. His father barked again, voiced like a whip, stand up, you worthless trash. I never should have let your mother give birth to you. He was now a C-rank red tier, completely different from the likes of Hong Chongqing at school, and had far more real combat experience. Today, he had waited at home early, clearly intending to carry out his violence. Even if Bai Yi were a gold tier right now, he might not be able to win. That's why he had made sure to send his mother away first. But in the next second, a sound came from the door. His mother had come back. Bai Yi's heart clenched and he couldn't help screaming in his mind. Why? How'd she come back so soon? It turned out his mother, afraid he might be hungry, had rushed straight home after buying food. The moment she stepped inside, that bastard father of his gave a cold, mocking laugh. Take a look at what he gave birth to. In his previous life, after killing his father, he had been thrown in prison. A fellow inmate once asked him, I heard you're the first green tier to ever advance. Normally, a class has to be at least blue tier and reach a rank before advancement is even possible. How do you manage it so early? And to go straight from green tier to the 1 in a million platinum tier. Tell me, why'd you end up here? This place is only for death row inmates. That bastard deserved to die. How could he possibly have been the one to kill his own mother? In this life, determined not to let her be hurt, he swung his fist at his father, only to be swatted aside with a single casual blow sent flying across the room. A seasoned awakener, even without using skills, was far stronger than an ordinary person. A normal human could never withstand such a punch. His mother rushed over to check how badly he was hurt. The next moment, she spread her arms, placing herself in front of him in a protective stance. His father casually shut the door, sneering, what a damn shame. Rueyun, when I found out you were pregnant with a son, I was truly happy. I thought the chance for the Bai family to rise had finally come. Those two useless brothers couldn't produce a son, but I, Bai Ling Shan, could. The Bai family would rely on me to bring it glory. But why did he awaken the most pathetic green tier class? A worthless piece of trash who can't even advance, all because of your rotten genes. With that, he grabbed a stool and swung it at her. But just before it struck, Bai deactivated flash step, sending the stool flying along with his father, who was knocked back across the room. Don't you dare touch my mother. His father let out a sharp, amused breath. Interesting. His mother was in a panic now, worry written all over her face. His father loosened his shoulders and said, so you've grown. Good. Then he began closing the distance toward Bai Yi step by step. He gripped his sword tightly, thinking just a little longer, I have to hold him off. The next instant, his father lunged straight at him. He immediately activated inside step. When timed perfectly, it could block 100% of incoming damage. If triggered again within 0.09 seconds, it even had a chance to reflect the attack entirely back at the opponent. But despite using it, the massive difference in strength shattered his sword instantly. The next moment, he took his father's heavy punch head-on. Pain exploded in his chest. His ribs felt like they might snap. His father pressed the attack sneering, defying your noble father already? You're rushing things. With that, he swung another fist to Bei. Bei could only raise his guard because if he didn't, the one taking the hit would be his mother. The next thing that came was a crushing punch. Bei crossed his arms over his chest thinking, I can't dodge this. His father sneered, so you've got some spine? But what's the use? With such a weak class, you deserve to be beaten to death. Bei locked eyes with him, vowing silently. In this life, no tragedy would ever happen again. His father snatched up a stool again, barking. You think just because you awakened, you're something special? Don't even know who the real boss is. At that moment, heavy pounding echoed from the door. Open up, open the door. Damn it, who the hell is killing the mood right now? His father cursed. Bei exhaled in relief. They're here finally. His father grumbled his way to the door. Who is it? What the hell are you? Standing outside was Liang, deputy captain of the inspectorate squad, a red tier, a rank cleric. Why did it take so long to open the door? What are you busy with? His father froze. Deputy captain, what brings you here? We received a tip that the wanted criminal Snow was spotted near this building. We're conducting a door-to-door search. Have you seen anyone suspicious? That guy's face is on TV every day. If I saw him, of course, I'd report it right away. Meanwhile, his mother gently wiped the blood from Ba Yi's face. The deputy captain's eyes fell on Ba Yi and he pointed, What's going on with your boy? His father chuckled awkwardly. This stupid kid was careless. Send him to buy some groceries and he managed to trip and fall. No need for you to worry about such a small thing, deputy captain. Before he could finish he cut him off. No. He hit me. His father's eyes instantly darkened, glaring daggers at him. What the father didn't know was that before coming home, he had made a call from the little shop across the street, falsely reporting that he'd seen someone enter building A of Ziwa mansion who looked exactly like the wanted criminal Snow shown online. The moment the guard squad heard of Snow's sighting, they mobilized in full force. He hadn't expected them to arrive so quickly, but it was more than enough time. Now, Bai Lingxing hurriedly told the deputy captain, the kid's just joking around. How could I ever lay a hand on my own son? I care about him too much for that. Bei quickly cut his father off, listing the sources of his injuries. This bruise on my arm hit by a stool. This gash on my head, a liquor bottle. Here punched. Here kicked. Every wound on my body can be medically examined right now. After detailing his injuries, he immediately cited the Awaken a Management Ordinance. For awakeners who can't control their violent impulses and harm others, the Codex Awaken a Management Ordinance. Chapter 8 Article 4 clearly states, if the individual poses a potential danger, they must be detained immediately and held in the Awakener prison for 15 days. The two members of the inspectorate squad were visibly surprised. They hadn't expected a newly awakened kid to know the law that well. Bai Lingxing, now humiliated and furious, snapped, Bai Yi, are you out of your? Before he could finish, Liang stepped forward. Bai Lingxing, I'm Liang of the inspectorate squad. You are hereby placed under arrest in accordance with the law. You have the right to remain silent. F you. Bai Lingxing roared. The other inspector, Chun Jin Wu, a blue-tier Siren cleric, grabbed him and said coldly, calm down. If you resist, we'll have to use restraint. As the inspectors dragged Bai Lingxing out, he was still shouting curses at Bai Lingxing was gone. Bai turned to look at his mother. The next second, she rushed forward and hugged him. He quickly reassured her, Mom, it's over. You're safe now. This time, he had protected her. And with 15 days before Bai Lingxing was released, he had more than enough time to grow stronger. And this beating, he wouldn't take it for nothing. Just moments ago, he had slipped the key to Bai Lingxing's safe from his pocket. The very item Bai Lingxing had betrayed his teammates for years ago. The thing that had let him climb from an E-rank bottom feeder to a C-rank. He kept it hidden in the most secret spot in his room, never telling his soul in the family. In his previous life, he only learned of its existence after his father's death. Now, with his blade in hand, he could try soloing a demon lair. Right now, the only way to level up a class was through demon lairs, but every lair was under the control of the gods. And without guild membership, there was no entry. The only lairs he could currently access were those managed by the school, and the hidden lairs he knew of from his previous life. He had to surpass everyone as fast as possible because in 15 days, Bai Lingxuan would be out. Before then, he had to become much stronger. Elsewhere, Bai Lingshan had already been taken to the Inspectorate Squad's detention room. Some of the other inspectors muttered, "This time we mobilized the entire guard squad. Even the deputy captain came out, and in the end, we didn't find a thing. Could have been a false report. Doesn't matter if it's real or not. If it's tied to the rebels, we can't let our guard down. If snow really shows up in our county on Celebration Day, it'll be a huge mess." Shun Jin Wu asked curiously, "I heard the captain's coming back early. So are we?" Liang cut him off. "Not our business to discuss." In the cell, Bai Lingxing shouted, "Deputy Captain, come on. Cut me some slack. This was my first time. Won't happen again. I heard your wife's about to give birth, right? My buddy runs the best postpartum center in Cheshire County." Liang's voice turned cold, trying to bribe the inspectorate. "You used to be part of a guild squad. You really don't see how far you've fallen." With that, he turned and walked out, leaving Bai Lingshang standing there in stunned silence. Xin Jin Wu followed with a reminder. "Bribing the inspectorate isn't just a detention offense. Get some rest. You're being transferred to the Awakener prison tomorrow, and for your own good, keep your head down while you're there." With that, he too stepped out and shut the door. In the cell, Bai Lingshan roared with fury, "Bai Yi." Elsewhere, after comforting his mother, Bai Yi set out alone for the demon lair. Demon lairs could manifest anywhere. They were parallel spaces to reality entered through spontaneously formed gates. Most lairs once discovered were quickly occupied by guild forces. Inside, they were filled with dangerous beasts and valuable magic ores, making them the best place for awakeners to grow stronger. Demon lairs were extremely dangerous, usually requiring official scans and a coordinated team before entry. In his previous life, this lair made headlines 5 years later. Its location had gone undetected for so long that it wasn't discovered until a demonic invasion of the human world. By standard rules, an F-rank lair required a team of 3 E-rank awakeners. An E-rank lair, on the other hand, needed at least 3 E ranks and 2 D ranks working together in a 5-man squad. Based on the current timeline, this lair was almost certainly F-rank, making it the lowest level hidden lair he could access right now. At this moment, Bai Yi stood before an undiscovered lair entrance. He reached out cautiously, feeling the auras seeping from beyond the gate. Inside, danger lurked everywhere, and only a mix of elements and classes could boost survival odds, but he had no other choice. He had to grow stronger alone and as fast as possible. With his mind made up, he stepped forward without hesitation, heading straight into the unknown dangers of the lair. The moment he stepped into the lair, he was met with a vast expanse of snow and ice, clearly the domain of wind-type beasts. Not far ahead, a massive creature loomed surrounded by a pile of human skulls. It was an E8-ranked frost bear. Thankfully, still only in its midlife stage. Suddenly, rapid footsteps came from behind. A bloodthirsty forest wolf burst into view, its level higher than his own. He reacted instantly, dodging just in time to avoid a sneak attack. The wolf lunged again, but his blade caught the strike, forcing it back. He countered without hesitation, charging straight at its fangs. One clean slash split the wolf in two. Without the A-rank weapon he'd taken from Bai Lingshang, this wouldn't have been so easy against such beasts. Even a strike to the vitals would normally take 3 or 4 hits to finish the job. It made him almost nostalgic for the carefree days back at L-rank. He glanced at the system panel, quickly running the numbers in his head. An E-rank profession needed about 20 bloodthirsty forest wolves to level up once and 10 levels to advance from E-rank to D-rank. Suddenly, a chorus of wolf howls shattered his train of thought. He looked up to find an entire pack spreading out before him. The scent of blood had drawn them in. His expression darkened. "So you're planning to swarm me?" In the next instant, a wolf lunged straight at him. His blade flashed, striking dead on at its vital point, a clean critical hit. He weaved between snapping jaws, counter-attacking whenever an opening appeared. The sword in his hands moved like a blur, cutting down wolves one after another. With a sudden spin, his blade became a sweeping arc of cold steel tearing through the pack. The system panel flickered non-stop. Bloodthirsty Forest Wolf Slain, plus 52 EXP. Snow Wolf Fong times 18 acquired. Only one foe remain on the battlefield, a level 4 Bloodthirsty Wolf King. Without hesitation, Bai Yi kicked off the ground and charged straight at it. His blade danced at blinding speed, delivering a flurry of 360-degree strikes with no blind spots. With a final slash, the Wolf King collapsed, Bloodthirsty Wolf King slain, plus 56 EXP, Snow Wolf Diamond ×1 acquired. At this pace, he thought, I'll eventually grind my way up to D rank. A glance at the system panel told him he was only level 2 E rank so far, with a mere plus 12 attribute boost. Panting, he couldn't help but laugh bitterly. Just 20 wolves and I'm already this exhausted. E rank stamina really is terrible. I need to get my hands on a dimensional backpack. I'll be forced to leave valuable loot behind. Most magic dungeons were monopolized by the guild core, making it extremely difficult for independent awakeners to level up. Awakener academies, in truth, were nothing more than recruitment grounds for these guilds, filters to select the most promising candidates. For most students, the ultimate goal was to graduate as an elite and be chosen by a guild. But once you're kicked out, it could mean being stuck at the same rank for life. Bai Lingxing was one such example, banished from his guild and forever trapped at C rank. Solo grinding was still too slow, and in this freezing environment, the longer he stayed, the faster his stamina drained. So Bai he decided to change tactics, lure every monster in the dungeon to him. Without hesitation, he darted through the forest, dodging bloodthirsty forest wolves while hacking down nearby trees, creating enough noise to shake the entire woodland. Sure enough, the commotion drew out monsters from every direction. Cloud serpents, bloodthirsty forest wolves, even a few wolf kings surrounded him in seconds. That noise should have woken up every monster in this area, he thought, including the E-rank cloud-type beast, the Icefield Bear. Once enraged, an Icefield Bear attacked, indiscriminately mauling anything in sight. His plan was simple. Let the bear wound the other monsters first, then swoop in to finish them off for maximum EXP gain. E-rank beasts might be fierce, but brains weren't exactly their strong suit. The Icefield Bear not only drew most of the aggro, but also saved him a huge amount of stamina. Still, if he wanted the EXP, the finishing blow had to be his. Even with the bear's help, Vai began to feel the strain. The battlefield was taking a beating and the ground beneath him was close to giving way. It was time to move on to the next phase of his plan. He drove his blade deep into the ice and cracks began to race outward in all directions. All throughout the fight, he had been studying the terrain. This wasn't a frozen lake at all. It was an ice bridge suspended between two cliffs. As the bridge shattered, every monster standing on it plummeted into the abyss below. Just like that, most of his enemies were gone. With the stamina he had left, he only needed to deal with the survivors. This was the fastest way for him to level up. All throughout the fight, he had been pondering one thing: every dungeon had a final boss. By all logic, the E-rank dungeon's ruler should have been something like an E10 Savage Lion King. Could all that commotion really not have woken it? Why hadn't it shown itself yet? Suddenly, a wave of freezing air swept in from the distance, instantly encasing the surrounding beasts in ice. The cold rushed toward him and he dashed to evade, but he was still a second too slow. His feet were frozen solid and the chill crept rapidly up his body. That's when it hit him. The boss wasn't asleep at all. It had been waiting for the perfect moment. The ice bridge had been its trap all along. All it needed to do was appear at the end and reap the rewards. An intelligent boss hiding in a low-level dungeon. The true final boss was the D-rank cloud-type magic beast, the Lord of Azure Forest, and it didn't come alone. It brought along two lieutenants, the E-rank Azure Forest demon monkeys. The freezing chill spread rapidly, locking Bai Yi's entire body in ice. If this continued, hypothermia would soon set in. He had to break free fast. At that moment, the boss raised a single finger. One of its lieutenants, the Azure Forest demon monkey, lunged straight at him. The strike was about to land. In a flash of inspiration, Bai Yi poured all his energy into unleashing his skill, Shatter. Then, using object reflection, he sent the demon monkey's full attack right back at it. The ice around him shattered under the force, but the move drained a massive chunk of his stamina. Fortunately, the boss would need time before it could cast such a devastating spell again. Bai Yi had to finish it before that happened. The cunning boss suddenly cast a spell, freeing the Icefield Bear and the other monsters from their frozen shackles. In an instant, all of them locked on to Bai Yi as their target. His nuclear-type abilities were already countered by cloud-type magic. And with his current stamina, even handling the two Azure Forest demon monkeys would be a struggle. Now, surrounded by this massive horde of beasts, his chances of victory were practically zero. After several rounds against the two Azure Forest demon monkeys, Bai's stamina was completely drained. The boss, thinking victory was certain, gave a smug grin and unleashed an ice storm assault. He hadn't expected its skill cooldown to be so short. In his previous life, he had faced countless desperate situations, and through each one, he honed an instinct for sensing the slightest opening. Now, he was left with only two options. The first was to stay and keep fighting, but with his stamina at its limit. Even if he endured all the incoming attacks and somehow dealt with a few more high-level beasts, his chances of survival would still be zero. The second option was to leap off the cliff. When the ice bridge collapsed, he'd seen nearly 100 beasts plummet into the depths. Yet, he had only leveled up 3 times, meaning only about 60 had actually died and 40 or so had survived. That could only mean there was a river below to break their fall, and that river was his one and only chance. But shattering the ice earlier had already drained nearly all his strength, and now plunging from such a height into the water would batter his body to the brink. He was already at his limit. As he drifted toward unconsciousness, flashes of his past life surfaced. "You came back and didn't even ask me out for a drink. Bye, give me a hug. Boss, how about we sneak out for foie gras rice tonight? Bye, what's this data mean? Get over here and take a look." And his mother's voice worriedly asking if the wound on his head still hurt. And then he saw it, the mocking face of its Song Lin Lord. The cruel glare of his scumbag father telling him to die. The treacherous smirk of G. Boda from his past life. Each memory fanned the flames of rage burning in his chest. "I have no limits. I cannot have limits. Every regret from my previous life, I will never let them happen again. I've lost once. I've died once. I will never die again." Fueled by that unshakable resolve, Bai Yi swung his blade, severing the glacier over Lord's claw mid-attack, and with a savage kick sent the beast flying. At that moment, a golden light erupted from Bai Yi's entire body. Only in the direst of situations could one trigger a class advancement. From soloing the magic cavern to luring hordes of beasts to leaping off a cliff, he kept throwing himself into life or death situations, all to recapture that peak sensation. In the face of extreme danger, his adrenaline spiked to the absolute limit, finally triggering a class advancement. But the system chimed, advancement failed, requirements not met. However, you have learned the high-level skill of the nuclear holy swordsman. For Bai Yi, gaining this ultimate skill early was still a satisfying reward. Bai Yi narrowed his eyes, glaring at the glacier overlord and the remaining beasts. "Now it's time to clean you up." With a swift slash, Sanctuary's purge erupted. Several bloodthirsty forest wolves and an ice-field bear were instantly slain, and even a mighty glacier overlord was cleaved cleanly in two. Moments later, a cascade of loot dropped into his pack: blood fangs, icefield pelts, proud bear bones, snow wolf fangs, and snow wolf crystals. At the same time, triggering Sanctuary's purge wiped away every trace of exhaustion, restoring his stamina to full. He raised his head toward the cliff above, eyes sharp. "San Lin King, the final boss. I'll be back to finish you." Now at level E8, he could feel the difference. Slaughtering E-ranked monsters was effortless, and the biting cold no longer fazed him. Sanctuary's purge stored all the damage he'd taken, releasing it in one devastating burst against all nearby foes. The skill only activated after he had endured enough fatigue and damage, but thanks to it, his strength was now completely restored. They had no idea how long he'd been inside the demon cave, but he knew he had to hurry back. Otherwise, his mother would start worrying. High above on a cliff, the boss conjured a pavilion with a flicker of spellcraft. From its beams hung several Tsonlin demon monkeys swaying in the cold air. The boss sat calmly in the center, as still as a meditating monk. Suddenly, a loud crash shattered the silence. The corpse of the ice-field bear bite he had slain came hurtling up, smashing the pavilion to pieces. The boss slowly opened one crimson eye. Standing atop the bear's carcass, Bite he called out coldly, "We meet again." The boss merely raised a finger, and the demon monkeys roared as they charged toward him. He lifted his blade, effortlessly deflecting their strike, then countered with a single slash, cutting one down instantly. The boss's eyes widened in shock. This trusted lieutenant had been cut down so easily. Enraged, it swung its staff and unleashed Ice Storm Assault, but he triggered his immunity skill, rendering the blizzard completely useless. In that opening, he closed the distance to the boss. The boss flustered, reached into a side pouch and pulled out another magic artifact while barking orders for the remaining Sanlin demon monkeys to form a wall in front of it. Activated Flash Step, doubling his speed in an instant. His blade blurred through the air, cutting down the blocking monkeys in a single sweep. Without missing a beat, he struck like lightning, severing the boss's left arm. While the boss was still reeling from the shock, Bai Yi swung his blade again, carving deep into its body. System prompt: you have defeated the level 11 tier 0 cloud type magic boss. Lord of the Tsonglin gained 1000 EXP. Rank up. You are now a D rank nuclear warrior. All attributes plus 100%. System prompt: cloud element energy fully accumulated. A new class is about to awaken. Only then did Bai Yi realize. He'd been fighting so fiercely that he completely forgot. The cloud element was maxed out. This meant he had unlocked the E-rank Cloud Mage class with the ability to switch between classes at will. He was stunned, a red tier class. Even at E-rank with its 200% base stat bonus, its power was already on par with his current D-rank warrior build. From the boss's corpse, he claimed several drops, a D-rank mage weapon, magic stone, and a D-rank magic pouch. Right in front of several sunling demon monkeys, Bai Yi calmly picked up the 2 loot items, making them finally realize what had happened. Staring at the low-level grunts, he felt a rush of excitement. Without hesitation, he switched to his newly unlocked Cloud Mage mode. A smirk tugged at his lips. Let's see what this brand new class can do. Meanwhile, back at home around 10 a.m., Bai Yi's mother noticed he still hadn't gotten up and went to knock on his door. To her surprise, the room was empty. The blanket was neatly folded and a small note lay on the bed. Mom, I'm at a friend's place. I won't be home late. Don't worry about me. But she could tell instantly. If he really went to a friend's house, he would have told her directly. There was no need to leave a note. Xiao He, what's going on with you? Since you came home yesterday, you felt like a completely different person. Why do I have such a bad feeling about this? From 10 a.m. to 11 p.m., but he still hadn't come home. His mother's worry grew heavier by the hour. She had already prepared dinner waiting for him to walk through the door. Where on earth did you go? Why have you been gone so long? Please don't let anything bad happen to you. She sat in the living room all night unmoving until 5 in the morning, just so she felt she was about to break. The front door creaked open and Bai Yi stepped inside. Mom, I'm sorry. I made you wait so long. She shot to her feet and pulled him into a tight hug, tears streaming down her face. In a soft voice he said, Mom, I have a suggestion. Will you hear me out? Let's move away. Let's leave him behind for good. Using the magic pouch, he took out the 10 most valuable items he had apart from his essential weapons. He then approached a middle-aged merchant intending to sell the red gemstones he had found in the demon cave. The man examined the gem in his hand and began 800 per stone and later, but before he could finish, Bei cut him off 8,000. The man's eyes widened. Are you kidding me? For this stone, Bei snatched it back and said coldly, if you don't want it, I'll leave. After a tense round of bargaining, they finally settled at 7,000 per stone. The man only bought part of his stock and he weighed the remaining gems in his hand, thinking, in my previous life, I knew plenty of magic or brokers. These will fetch a good price too. With this money, he could rent his mother a much better home. In his last life, she had never known a single day of comfort. In this life, Bailey's only wish was to let her truly live in peace and luxury. Bailey took his mother to view a house and paid the rent in full without hesitation. Soon, the two of them moved into their new place. In the kitchen, his mother hummed a tune while preparing dinner. With their housing settled, his strength had advanced to Duran K and he had even gained a new class. Still, with that scumbag father locked up, he couldn't afford to relax. Until the matter was completely resolved, he couldn't focus solely on revenge. Tomorrow, he would have to return to school. He polished the magic stone he had obtained and slipped it onto his hand. Clenching his fist, he thought, it's time to find that thing. Meanwhile, at another demon cave's exit, Hong Xiangxing emerged with a group of subordinates. They looked exhausted yet still flattered him. Young master, your skills have improved yet again. A girl handed him a bottle of water. Brother, take a break. Hong Xiangshan slapped it away. While there's still time, we're heading to the next cave for more training. No one will improve faster than me. At the mock combat test, I'll make everyone see who the real genius is. Elsewhere, a woman stood before a floor-to-ceiling window. Her entire figure shimmered with a faint golden glow as she glanced down at the new Awakeners class list in her hand, murmuring, not a single gold-tier profession in this year's Awakeners. Looks like there's nothing to look forward to in this mock test. On Monday morning, Bai Yi's mother prepared a hearty breakfast for him. As he ate in a rush, he complained, Mom, why didn't you wake me up? She signed with her hands, you were sleeping so soundly. I couldn't bear to wake you. Gently ruffling his hair, she added in sign language, slow down. Being late once in a while isn't the end of the world. Faye smiled warmly. It had been so long since he'd enjoyed a full night's peaceful sleep, and never before had he been able to sit down and have breakfast with her like this. Suddenly, his mother patted him lightly on the shoulder. He looked at her in surprise. What is it? Is there anything you want? A toy? A book? Some kind of electronic device? Mom, are you suddenly planning to give me a gift? What's going on? She pointed to the calendar on the wall. Next Friday is your birthday. Bye. He froze. He hadn't realized his birthday was so close. It had been so long. In his previous life, after his mother passed away, no one celebrated his birthday again. Over time, he'd simply stopped thinking about it. Is there something I want? What do I want the most? Looking at his mother across the table, he realized he already had the thing he wanted most. Next, it was time for him to accomplish his next goal, the very traitor from his previous life. Arriving at the Awakeners Academy, the teacher stood at the podium and called out, "All right, you little chicks had enough rest over the weekend? Good. Because now we begin the hellish prep for the simulated combat. I'm sure none of you need me to explain how important this is. Our Awakeners Academy is directly under the Divine Guild, which keeps a close eye on your every move. This simulated battle will be your first official appearance since awakening. It's not only your middle school graduation exam. It'll also be broadcast live. And more importantly, those who perform the best will earn the chance to join the high school division on the Journey of Cultivation." The Journey of Cultivation was the best annual opportunity to meet members of the Divine Guild up close. The school would select the top middle and high school students to travel together to St. Heath Country, home to the Divine Guild headquarters. Standing among the crowd he quietly listened to the teacher's words. In his heart, he thought, St. Heath Country, the headquarters of the Divine Guild. That's where I first met my master. It's also the birthplace of that man. Back then, he and his master had no direct contact. It wasn't until he joined the Divine Legion that they officially met. If he wanted to find that person now, the fastest way was to score high in this exam and secure a spot in the Journey of Cultivation. Around him, the other students reacted to the teacher's announcement, some thrilled, others visibly anxious. The teacher then pointed to a door nearby. All right, let's begin with the first stage, physical training. This is the gravity room. Everyone will start with 10 sets of shuttle runs. The students lined up in order, filing into the gravity room one after another. He stepped up to the teacher and said calmly, "I don't want to use this training room."
All right, that's the end of the story. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.